Hey everyone, welcome back to The Tent, your place for politics, policy, and progress. I'm Colin Seaberger.
And I'm Daniella Gibbs-Leger. Colin, we do not live in the tropics. Am I correct on that?
That we do not.
So why are we having tropical weather without my beaches, without my fresh mangoes? Like, I do not like this.
No, Daniella, I really just couldn't even believe on Saturday we had such strong storms. There was literally white water, going down my neighbor across the street, their steps. It was so powerful and so strong. And then, the storm wraps. I take my dogs outside so they can relieve themselves. And yet it is still like zero humidity left, even after we had this huge deluge of storms. How that's possible?
I don't understand.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I listen, I've been in DC for a long time. I know that our summers are typically hot and muggy, but this is unusual even for DC.
Even for DC.
Yes.
Well, Daniella, I know that you also have an important announcement that you want to share with our listeners.
I do, Colin. And to our dear listeners, this is going to be my last podcast taping. I know, I can't believe it. After, almost 17 combined years, the Center for American Progress Action Fund, I will be leaving this week to new ventures. And I know we'll talk a little bit more later about the pod and me, but it's been an incredible ride, and I'm going to miss taping with you guys every week.
We're going to miss you so much. The pod is not going to be the same without you. And just to take a moment to personally reflect, I'm deeply grateful. You aren't just my co-host, you're also my boss. And working for you, Daniella, has been such a pleasure, and I've learned so much from you. You supported me as I came back from being a first-time parent, and helped me navigate that whole crazy process. You have made me better at my job, more compassionate, more diplomatic at managing complex projects and personalities. And I'm just deeply, deeply grateful for you, and I'm going to miss you so much.
Thank you. We were going to have to stop it there because I said, I'm not crying today. We're not going to cry.
Not going to do it.
Not going to do it.
So we wanted to spend a little time today to talk about your journey here at Cap Action, the podcast, and your legacy. You said it yourself. You've had 17 years combined from a couple of stints at Cap and Cap Action, and we've got plenty of tissues ready to go if we need them, but we're also going to try to keep it together for our listeners.
Thank you.
Yes. After that, you're going to hear an important conversation that I had with a fellow Texan, a former Congressman, Beto O'Rourke, who joined us to talk about some dangerous steps that lawmakers in the state are taking to redraw the congressional maps at the direction of Donald Trump, in order to give more Republicans more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives in the 2026 midterm elections. He also talked with us about these unprecedented times that we're in and how we can fight back. Take a listen.
If Democrats are seen to be trying to save something that isn't worth saving, that hasn't worked to begin with, whether that's democracy, whether that's the economy, whether that's our institutions, I think we're going to continue to lose elections because the status quo was not working for arguably a majority of our fellow Americans. Still isn't, by the way, not as though Donald Trump made it any better, but Donald Trump's campaign had the virtue of identifying that as a fundamental problem. They weren't trying to save anything. They promised to blow it up. And I think we need to listen to the majority of our fellow Americans who participated in that election who said, you know what, that sounds good to me.
Well, I really look forward to listening to this interview.
But before you go, Daniella, we've got to talk a little bit about you.
Okay.
Tell our listeners who may be newer to the show about the evolution of this podcast. Talk about its roots, why you started it, and how it's evolved today.
So the podcast started years ago. I probably should have looked this up before we came down to tape.
2018, 2019?
Around 2018, maybe 2017. And it was actually one of my former employees, Sally. We had been, she was our radio broadcast director, and we had been batting around the idea of doing a podcast. And I was like, you know what? Why don't you do a memo for me?
Oh, do a memo.
Do a memo.
The number of times I have heard this.
But I meant it sincerely. And she came up with this, she wrote this brilliant memo basically talking about how the landscape in media was changing, but also reiterating like who CAP and CAP Action was. Communications is at the forefront of what we do. Like, we believe that policy and comms and advocacy all go hand in hand. And if we want to make sure that we are staying sort of at the head of the pack, we had to have a podcast. And I was like, okay, you know what? I can get behind that. I agree with that. And I convinced the powers that be to allow us to create it. And that's how we started all those years ago.
And here we are.
More
than 300 episodes deep.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniella, having made those episodes come to life for so many years. And I know that we are all smarter, better educated, and finding some joy in this fight, right? I mean, there's a lot of slog here in trying to make this country better over the course of the past 8 years of this pod's life. And I know, at least for myself, and I think for our listeners, I think they'd all agree that this has been a little slice of hope at times, as well as a reflection of what this broad center left tent, we are the tent pod, can be at its best. Well, you've been at CAP Action, or the White House, actually, for nearly 20 years. Talk to us about how you think Washington has changed. We talked a little bit about the media environment having evolved quite dramatically over the course of the past several years. But how has Washington changed, and what do you see as CAP Action's role in the fights ahead as we look toward the midterms in 2026, as well as, finally, hopefully turning the page on Donald Trump's presidency come 2028, 2029?
Good Lord. So to say that D.C. has changed in the past 20 years is obviously a very large understatement. I look back now on some of the fights that we were having back in 2004 and 2008, and I'm almost like, what I wouldn't give to have to deal with people who I disagree with on policy, but I don't inherently think that they're trying to destroy our democracy. So we, and we didn't just get here to this place overnight. I think there's been a coarsening of our public discourse and our politics that's been happening since the 80s. And I think with the election of President Obama, it just got set into hyperdrive. And I think, unfortunately, it just hasn't dissipated since then. And the divisions that were sort of maybe simmering underneath the surface all came out.
Yeah.
It started in the form of the Tea Party, which I would argue with my colleagues then. They're like, it's like all this economic anxiety, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's also something else there, friends. And Donald Trump, unfortunately, was very able to exploit some of that. And so for me, the biggest change is, like, me as a Democrat, not speaking as, a Center for American Progress Action Fund employee for a second, it's disheartening to feel that there isn't a Republican Party that is worth sparring with, if that makes sense. Like, you can have your intellectual disagreements, you can have your policy disagreements, you can have your personality clashes.
Yeah.
But what's happened to that party has been so sad and so rapid, and it would be one thing if it just happened in a vacuum, but it's affecting the entire country because of some of the broken infrastructure systems that we have in place. So that to me has been the biggest change. And I think the role that CAP and CAP Action can play is reminding people of who those folks are and reminding people that we are in extraordinary times. At the event at CAP, Beto said very clearly, like, and as you said, these are unprecedented times.
Yeah.
And we, like, meaning everybody who wants to return to some sort of normalcy or get to some sort of better democracy, have to stop acting as if we're just dealing with an oppositional force in the Republican Party. We are dealing with something that maybe our elders recognize in terms of authoritarianism, the eroding of democratic norms. But I need all of us to sort of take off these blinders and understand the real fight that we're in. And so I think CAP and CAP Action have been playing that role, and that's going to be an important role moving forward.
We get it. And I am confident that CAP and CAP Action will continue to, not have blinders on. There are no rose-colored glasses here, folks. Nope.
No.
Not going to find them. But I guess looking back with some rose-colored glasses, maybe, I'm curious to know from you, what is your favorite episode of this podcast, Daniella? You have spoken to so many people.
I have.
At the highest levels of power. What stands out?
So this was really hard to come up with one. So, of course, I did not come up with one. I came up with a few.
Okay.
And I'm probably forgetting some that were also, they're all amazing. But I would say one of the most fun interviews was with Preston Mitchum, who,
yes.
former capper, star of Summer House, Martha's Vineyard. Bravo, bring it back. What are you doing? What are you doing? I need this in my life.
Look, they're getting scrutiny in non-traditional media now for canceling Martha's Vineyard. Mm-hmm. Oh, Andy, you have been warned.
Exactly. You have been. So interviewing him and getting to talk about, obviously, all the great policy work and advocacy work that he does, but then obviously talking about pop culture.
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
You're a reality TV fan. Like
I am.
It is, honestly, it's podcasts that bring together both, like, your real personality as well as, like, the things that you're passionate about and knowledgeable of that, like, people want to listen to. So it's not surprising to me that it was one of your favorites, but I'm sure for our listeners as well.
Yeah, it was great. And then one of my favorite interviews came together at literally the last minute. So I don't know if folks remember, during the Writers Guild strike, we had lined up an interview with Zach Stentz, who wrote movies like X-Men and has like a great resume. And at the very last minute, he had to cancel, like literally 10 minutes before we're about to go on air. He had an emergency that he had to deal with. And so we were like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, my sister's a member of the Writers Guild and is currently on strike. And I was like, it might be 9:00 at night in Rome, but let's give her a call and see what we can do.
Come through, Arlene.
And Arlene came through, and it was hilarious to interview her. But that was a lot of fun. And thank you, Arlene, for bailing us out that episode.
That is amazing. And you know what? We are one big happy family here at the Tent Pod, but we also appreciate all the things that our families do to help us make it possible to do this work, bring you this podcast. I know working in the White House or at CAP and CAP Action for 20 years, you sacrifice a lot, right? There's always stuff that is happening. I know your husband, your kiddo have been right there all along the way, backing you up. And I'm grateful to them, as I know you are. But on that note, I am curious, can you just share some final parting words of wisdom with me, with our listeners, as you get ready to start this next journey?
Ooh, words of wisdom. I'll give advice that I I try to take, but I don't always take.
Okay.
You and I have talked about this off camera a lot, but you know, this work that we do is so important, and so many people rely on the people who work in this building to advocate for them and fight for them. And it's really fulfilling and deeply moving. But we are also people who are also experiencing this stuff as well. And so just remembering to be kind to yourself and remember to take time out and decompress when you can. And if you are fortunate enough to have a place that has generous sick leave, use it when you wake up in the morning. You're like, nope, not today, Satan.
Can't do it.
Not today.
Watch The Bachelor or Bachelor in Paradise.
Exactly.
Yes.
This season's so great, by the way.
We couldn't have Daniella's final pod and not mention The Bachelor.
I know, we had to.
Yeah.
But that really is my biggest advice, because in order to do this work, like you have to bring your best self, if you will.
Yep.
And that requires like really just making sure that you're checking in on yourself. And I know for a lot of folks, especially a lot of us Black women, you put the mask on, your kids first before you take care of yourself. When you're on a plane, you're not supposed to do that. Put your own mask on first. And then you'll be able to help take care of others.
Well, on that note, Daniella, you have always taken great care of this pod, our audience, me, your entire team. And for that, we are deeply, deeply grateful. We will miss you so much.
I will miss you guys so much. And I just have to give a shout out to this incredible tent team, going all the way back to Sally and up to the current crew and our video crew now. It's been so wonderful to see how professional the podcast has become. Yeah. And that's only because of the people y'all don't see behind the camera or you don't hear behind the microphone. And so I just want to thank you all so much for helping us produce an amazing product every week. And I will miss you. I'm not going to look at Colin. I will miss you all. I'll miss you all so much.
Well, with that, that's all the time we have for today. If there's anything you'd like us to cover on the pod, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads at The Tent Pod. That's at The Tent Pod. And stick around for my interview with Beto O'Rourke in just a beat. Beto O'Rourke represented Texas' 16th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives from 2013 to 2019. He's also run for U.S. Senate, Governor, and was a presidential candidate in 2020. He hails from El Paso, Texas, and I'm so excited, as a fellow Texan, Beto O'Rourke, to welcome you to the tent.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So we're here, and I really wanted to talk to you because there's this, late-breaking development we've seen come out of Texas over the course of the last few weeks. In response to a plea from President Trump, Texas legislators, are going to be convening at a special session that started this week to look at redrawing the state's congressional district maps. This is, of course, because Donald Trump wants to hold on to his Republican majority in the U.S. House. Can you talk a little bit about this move by the state? Is it unprecedented? Have we seen this before? What do you see as a potential outcome here? And just how dangerous is this to our democracy?
This is often referred to as redistricting. I think people, get it when we talk about it in just plain language. This is a process by which members of Congress choose their own voters. So to your question about whether it's precedented or not, it happens in very rare circumstances, typically when courts order a state to redraw their congressional districts because those districts are found to be in violation of the Constitution, the Voting Rights Act, United States law. Last time you had a mid-decade redistricting was in Texas in 2003. One of those districts was later thrown out by the courts because it was found to be a racial gerrymander, which means that you have drawn out people, specifically Black Texans, from a congressional district to dilute the power of their vote and the likelihood that they're going to participate in future elections at all. In this gerrymander, in this redrawing of political maps by members of Congress to choose their own voters, the president literally ordered Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, and the Republican majority legislature to find him 5 new congressional districts. In other words, 5 congressional districts currently represented by 5 Democrats. He wants their boundaries and borders redrawn. He wants to put more Republican voters into those newly formed districts so that a Republican can easily unseat the Democrat. That is what they are trying to do. And if people of good conscience and people who believe in our democracy don't fight back, then not only will we lose this fight, it's very possible that we'll lose an extraordinary opportunity to pick up the House of Representatives, because Trump is historically unpopular, whether it's on immigration, where he polls at 35%, or what he called the big, beautiful bill, which is deeply unpopular across this country, or proposed cuts to Medicaid, the VA, Social Security. It turns out people don't like this stuff.
Really?
And this slim majority that he holds in the House would be lost if not for rigging the next election by redrawing these 5 districts. So those are the terms of the challenge. The opportunity for Democrats and people who love democracy are to, A, fight back by denying Republicans in the state house the quorum necessary to be able to redraw these districts. B, ensure that states where Democrats have a total control on political power, like California, redraw their districts to Democratic advantage to meet and perhaps exceed what Texas is trying to do through Donald Trump. Or C, if those districts are redrawn, they will come at the expense of traditionally safe Republican districts, because they'll have to move Republican voters out of these seats to make them accessible in the newly drawn districts. We might have a chance to win those if we are organizing right now, registering voters, organizing, fielding great candidates, and getting out there and winning. My theory of the case is that we have to pursue all 3 simultaneously.
Sure.
Let's get the quorum break, Gavin Newsom get after it, and then let's get out there and continue to register and turn out voters that can win elections.
Well, of course, I mean, the 2028 presidential election also is on the horizon, right? And, if neither candidate wins 270 electoral votes, say you get a 269 tie, it is the U.S. House of Representatives that ultimately selects the next president, too. So the ramifications here for what happens in this fight in Texas right now could have, massive ripple effects for people all over the country. You talked about what Democrats can do in this moment. I'm curious, you talked about the denying of quorum. You also mentioned Democratic governors, people like Gavin Newsom, people like J.B. Pritzker in Illinois. What could those governors be doing to help support some of these Texas House Democrats, State House Democrats, to make sure that they are protected when they seek refuge outside of the state in order to, deny quorum? Is there more that they can be doing that we should be sounding the alarm about right now?
Well, it's a great question, because if Democrats break quorum in Texas, they're going to have to go somewhere other than Texas.
That's right.
In Texas, they're subject to Department of Public Safety, state troopers coming after them, hauling them back into the Capitol. And for that matter, in Donald Trump's America, wherever they go, they're subject potentially to, Department of Homeland Security, Federal Bureau of Investigations, the law enforcement arm of the federal government doing the president's bidding for this redistricting in Texas. So we're going to need very strong allies. And those that you mentioned, Pritzker in Illinois, Newsom in California, it's a great place to start. Hochul in New York, Beshear in Kentucky, maybe not the obvious place for Democrats to go to, but you know what? I think everything has to be on the table. And the upside for these folks who could do the right thing at this moment of truth is that, the country will be watching, and the country is hungry for leadership right now. People want us to fight back. They don't want us to talk about fighting back. They want us to fight back. And there is no better opportunity, no more urgent cause that requires a fight than this one in Texas. So there's really a role for all of us, whether you're a Democrat who is a governor of one of these states, whether you love democracy and want to aid and support those state representatives should they make the quorum break. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, there's an opportunity to help right now. And as you put it so well, the stakes are not political. It's not simply about what party holds advantage in the House of Representatives. It is whether this president will be able to continue to consolidate authoritarian control in this country, dismantle the Constitution, rule of law, self-government, and take us into another form of government altogether. We know that he's promised to pursue a third term. It is not an idle threat. It will be much easier for him to do that if he has a compliant Republican majority in the House. The best way to stop it is Texas.
Now, Beto, I know that you have been planning to come to Cap Action for a few weeks now, and so I've been very excited to talk to you about this threat that's going on in Texas, but I also wanted to get your thoughts on some other headlines that have been in the news. I wasn't expecting this one to come up in our chat as of a few weeks ago, but as I'm sure you've been following, we got to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump and his administration seem hell-bent on covering up the truth of whatever is in the Jeffrey Epstein files, which they promised to release time and time again, now seem to want to look everywhere else except for their own Department of Justice. But to me, it's just one more example of Donald Trump and those with power in this country seeming to want to rig the system and cover things up to protect, those that have power. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on all of this? Some people have been saying that this has actually kind of opened up a messaging opportunity for Democrats as they look toward the 2026 midterms. Where are you on all this?
They look weak. The president looks weak. His party looks weak. And I point that out because I think that part of the president and the MAGA movement's success is the appearance of strength and confidence and certainty and whatever the facts and whatever lies they trot out, always with a straight face, always with the assurance and strength that they possess a monopoly on the truth, and that come hell or high water, whatever the courts might say, whatever Democrats might worry about, they are moving forward. This is the first thing that I've seen in his 6 months in office that has truly seemed to paralyze him. To that point, I saw the headline as we were walking in that Mike Johnson is going to send the House of Representatives, the mighty House, home until September because they are so afraid of taking votes on Epstein, and specifically just making sure the American people have the truth. I think all of us to a person, it doesn't matter your party affiliation or even if you're political, all of us to a person want to know just what happened to those girls, who was responsible, who was there, who knew what, when. The only way we're going to get that information is by releasing all of the files and all of the information, the logs, any of the facts behind this. And there's one person who has the power to do that, and that is President Trump. And he has members of his own party trying to compel him to do this. Democrats certainly are making their best effort. So I've never seen the president look so weak. And you're right, it is a huge opportunity. They're trying to deflect. Look at Obama and the Russia hoax, quote unquote, or here are these trove of documents from the MLK assassination, or whatever it is they want to trot out next. But the American people want the answer, and they're not going to relent until they get it, or until there's accountability for the president and his party for not offering it.
So we talked a bit earlier about Donald Trump's favorability rating having plummeted over the course of the past few months. And simultaneously, we've not really seen too much legislating outside of course, his marquee mega bill that passed earlier this month. I'm talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. I am curious, you've been making the rounds in Texas. You've been talking to folks about the fights that are happening both in the state as well as in D.C., how the changes that are being debated are going to affect their lives. How are people responding to some of the cuts that Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress have made recently? I mean, I think part of you talked about Donald Trump, being seen as a strong figure. I think a lot of people actually ended up backing Donald Trump because he was coming across as not a conventional Republican, right? He talked about, I'm not going to cut Medicaid. I'm not going to cut Social Security and Medicare. And now he's overseen the largest cuts to Medicaid in American history. I'm curious to hear, what are folks saying to you as to how they're processing all this?
Well, it's deeply unpopular. I mean, at these town hall meetings that we're holding everywhere, this issue, whether in the form of questions about Medicaid or more poignantly stories that people tell us about what it's going to mean for them in their lives. We were at a town hall in Humboldt, Texas, outside of Houston, and a woman stood up and said, look, I'm 72 years old. I take care of my husband who has Parkinson's. He's 77. With these Medicaid cuts, the best scenario for us is that my husband dies before I do, because should I pass before him, he is out of luck. There will be no safety net for him. There will be no Medicaid that he can rely on, and his remaining days will be spent suffering. And through tears, she tells us this story and then says, I'm going to fight back with everything that I've got. And this is someone who doesn't come to town hall meetings, who, I haven't seen in my many travels through the Houston area and Southeast Texas. This is something that is radicalizing her in our politics in a great way, right? To fight back and to make sure that we don't lose this. I was in Baltimore Sunday at a town hall, and a woman shared with me that she has stage 4 ovarian cancer. She works at Johns Hopkins, which is had its funding cut by Donald Trump and the Trump administration.
Yep.
And one of the research studies looking at the form of ovarian cancer that she has also been cut. She told me, I've got a year and a half, or the doctors tell me there's a 70% chance that I'll be dead in a year and a half. The one lifeline I had, the thing that I was holding on to, my hope, was this research study at Hopkins. And now that has been zeroed out. So the numbers, 1.7 million Texans are going to lose their health care. I mean, that makes an impact, but I don't know that you can quite get your head around what 1.7 million looks like. But, you meet that woman in Humboldt with her husband with Parkinson's, or this woman in Baltimore who has stage 4 ovarian cancer. There's a face, there's a person, there's someone you care about. Yep. You're brought into this story. And I think we need to do more to direct the focus on these people who are being hurt, to elevate them and their stories, and to keep the country focused on this. I understand that right now it is Epstein all day, all the time, and as it should be, because the president promised and has broken that promise, and there needs to be accountability. But the bigger story ultimately is what is happening to our fellow Americans, the largest transfer of wealth in American history, from working people to the wealthiest 1%, the wealthiest people on the planet, bar none, who are making out like robbers on this stuff. And all this deflection, whether it's Obama or MLK right now, or look at that trans person or that immigrant or this DEI or this woke stuff in your college, all an attempt to distract us from the real thing. They're robbing us blind right now. And got to make sure that we wake our fellow Americans up to that and keep us focused on the problem till we get to the solution. And then describe what that solution looks like. What if you had an America that wasn't rigged, where your take-home pay was enough to live on, where you were guaranteed the ability to see a doctor when you're sick, before you're sick? We don't want you to get sick in the first place. You have access to healthy food, clean drinking water, time and space to exercise and move your body, time to spend with your kids and your family and your loved ones. You can work hard and afford to buy a home, which you can't do now. But that America we have to describe to people. We got to stop the bad stuff, describe the good that we'll bring, and then win political power and deliver it.
You talked about stories, Beto. I've been really moved recently by the stories of families across Kerr County who have been dealing with the devastating impacts of the recent tragic flooding that occurred in Texas. I'm curious to hear from you about how folks in community are responding to the federal government's response to that storm. We know, of course, that the administration has talked about shutting down FEMA, which, for states like Texas, along the Gulf Coast, just could be absolutely devastating. I'm curious to hear, is the state getting the support that it needs? Is there more that the federal government should be doing to help families who have had their lives turned upside down by this storm?
These families and those who love them in Kerr County and surrounding communities, really throughout Texas. That's the inspiring positive thing. The way that they have met this tragedy and this trauma by being there for one another and never asking, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Who did you vote for last time? Are you a citizen? It's just, how can I help you? And then being there. And very often, and you've probably read the same stories I have, especially while the flooding was taking place, at extraordinary risk to themselves in order to help others. And many lost their lives risking them to help others. So that's the best of Texas. That's the best of America. We need to fully understand the story and assign accountability and learn from that. And we're not there yet, but some things we do know. The Trump administration cut the National Weather Service position in the Austin, San Antonio NWS office that was responsible for passing on extreme weather warnings to local communities to make sure that they in turn were passed on to the people who are in harm's way. I don't know if that contributed to the death and to the near death that we saw from so many, but it certainly could not have helped. The fact that before the legislature in the last legislative session in Texas, there was a bill that would have funded these early warning systems that weren't in place. That may not have helped in time had it passed, and it didn't because of Dan Patrick, our lieutenant governor. But it goes to show Texas Republicans ignoring the needs, including life-saving early warning systems in places like the Hill Country and Kerr County. And then, Secretary Kristi Noem's delayed reaction and response to the requests coming in from Texas because of this, rule that she implemented that said over a certain dollar amount she had to personally sign off on anything. She was AWOL for days while the people of Texas really needed that help. And then the inability for folks who were calling into FEMA to even have another human being on the other side of the phone to answer and take care of them in their moment of need. I mean, why does FEMA exist in the first place? Why do you have a federal government in the first place? I mean, human life is the most important thing and the most important reason that government exists to begin with. And it was found wanting at the extreme moment of truth for those folks in Kerr County. So, we need to continue to focus on recovery, on those few who are still missing and unaccounted for, and then really understanding how this happened and how to prevent it again and who was responsible at the end of the day.
Now to kind of tackle a different area, I also want to ask you about the path forward for the broad center left, right? Obviously, I think the Democratic Party is is reckoning with the fact that its position, if you look at public polls, is extremely meek at the moment. There's obviously been a lot of talk coming out of the 2024 election about, the party should head in this ideological direction or should really be prioritizing these tactics over those. I'm curious to get your sense as somebody who really, as a Texan, watching you run in 2018, I think kind of breathed new life into a Texas Democratic Party that really had become anemic, right? And, how should Democrats, the broad center left, be thinking right now in this moment about what they need to build towards in order to actually gain a popular vote majority again in this country, and really gain a governing majority? It's not just enough to win the White House, but you want to actually be able to go and deliver on that change with a durable majority in Congress.
I think it starts by being honest with people. If Democrats are seen to be trying to save something that isn't worth saving, that hasn't worked to begin with, whether that's democracy, whether that's the economy, whether that's our institutions, I think we're going to continue to lose elections because the status quo was not working for arguably a majority of our fellow Americans. Still isn't, by the way, not as though Donald Trump made it any better, But Donald Trump's campaign had the virtue of identifying that as a fundamental problem. They weren't trying to save anything. They promised to blow it up.
Sure.
And I think we need to listen to the majority of our fellow Americans who participated in that election who said, you know what, that sounds good to me. So you have to acknowledge what hasn't been working. And that includes what is not working within the current Trump administration. He certainly isn't making anybody's life any better. And we see that in the polling and the protests and the way that people are responding. But if you leave it at that, that's insufficient to the task at hand and it won't produce a victory. You have to describe a compelling aspirational vision for the future. On the economy, what does it mean to be able to work just one job, as so many of my fellow Texans are working 2 or 3 just to make ends meet? What would it mean if you didn't have to fear going into bankruptcy in order to pay for the diseases the treatments for the diseases that were consuming you, or taking your child to a physician, or getting behavioral health care in a state where the largest provider of mental health care is the county jail system, and the largest inpatient provider is the Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas? What would it mean if you could afford to buy a home? What does that look like? What is our plan to get that done? So I think that powerful, positive, aspirational vision, one that people can see a future for themselves in, is critical. And that's really the note that we should be landing on. I mean, we know this shit's bad. We know it's not working. Trump is awful. He is dragging us into authoritarianism and tyranny. He's making people's lives worse. He's corrupt. All of that is true. But I think most people understand that. They want to know how voting for a Democrat will make their life better. And I think we just need to be clearer and more explicit about that. And to that end, I think we also have to talk like human beings talk, and talk like voters talk. And the best way to do that is to be with those people who are going to decide the outcome of that next election, to hold town hall meetings, to listen to them in their own words, from their own heart, what moves them, what they fear, what they're excited about, and what they want to see in their future, and then reflect that in the campaign that you run. More of that, and I think we'll do much better in future elections.
Well, on that very optimistic note, Beto O'Rourke, thanks so much for joining us on The 10.
Thank you.
Well, folks, that's it for us this week, and it for me. But before you go, we got to talk about some stuff. So first and foremost, Colin, oh my God, these lanternflies.
Daniella, call the exterminator. Because they have got to go.
Weren't the cicadas enough? Like, why do
these
we have
are
to
worse
have
than the cicadas. These lanternflies are violent. They will jump out at you unexpectedly.
Yes.
They're everywhere. Folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, they look kind of like butterflies, kind of like crickets or beetles or whatever, but they have wings that are like pinkish red on the inside of the wings that you can't really see when they're not spread, and they're disgusting. I hate it.
I don't like it, and it's not that they're just disgusting. They also are bad. They're like invasive species.
Yes.
They're like eating trees and doing things we don't need them to be doing.
This is a public service announcement, folks.
Yes.
Step up and kill some dang lanternflies.
Yes, seriously, that is what
That's what the government says to do. Yes.
Kill them.
Yes.
They're bad. They're bad for your gardens and your trees, and that's not good for us. And also, their legs are like too long.
Yeah.
Like,
No wonder they can like jump out at you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move off of that and talk to something else that's cringeworthy.
Okay. Lay it on me, Daniella.
So you may have heard that his CEO and his chief people officer were caught on a Coldplay cam. Did you hear a little bit about this?
I may have seen a little bit of something about this. Yeah, that was nuts.
Oh my God, that was so insane. And I just, if they didn't react,
truly,
nobody will be talking about this. Nobody at all.
Yeah.
But no, the whole duck and hide and like, oh my God, we're guilty. And Chris Martin being like, well, either they're having an affair.
Yeah, no, he called them out, as he should. I have to say, just my heart goes out to his kids who, like, I mean, I haven't seen the internet go crazy like that in quite some time. for that first like 48, 72 hours. I mean, you had like, what was it, the Phillies?
The Phillies.
Yeah, the Phillies were like doing the astronomer kiss cam at the game. I mean, it was just everywhere.
Everywhere. You had people, I think at the next Coldplay concert, like holding up a sign and saying, like, this is my wife.
Oh
like,
my God.
The internet can be an awful place sometimes, but, I do feel bad for his children, but like, this is when the internet shines.
Yes.
At moments like this. And the memes. Oh, the memes were amazing and incredible. But I just like the hubris because, of course, the investigative Twitter people.
The Twitterati.
The Twitterati found the video, the point of view from Chris Martin. I didn't realize how close they were to the stage and how visible they were.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so
it looked like it was very far.
No. It was real close. And I'm like, y'all are bold. Like, you are both married to other people and you're in public basically canoodling.
That is
After
wild.
he said, we're going to show some couples. Like, listen. Yikes. Anyway, I'm always available to offer some crisis PR assistance.
You heard it here, folks. Daniella's a free agent. Come get her while you can.
Listen, because I don't know who. Oh boy, that's bad. But anyway, the moral of that story is, well, A, don't cheat on your spouses. B, don't bring your side piece to a public concert. And then C, if you're going to disregard A and B, just be cool about it.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crisis PR expert.
You're
couples
welcome.
therapist.
You're welcome.
Yes.
What can't she do, Colin?
What can't she do? And I feel like with that is the perfect place for us to end today's episode. Daniella, best of luck.
Thank you.
We will miss you.
I'll miss you guys too. Y'all take care of yourselves.
The Tent is a podcast from the Center for American Progress Action Fund. It's hosted by me, Colin Seeberger, and co-hosted by Daniella Gibbs-Lachey. Kelly McCoy is our supervising producer, Mishka Espy is our booking producer, and Muggs Leone is our digital producer. Hi Fan, Olivia Mowry, and Tony Pandolfo are our video team. Views expressed by guests at the Tent are their own, and interviews are not endorsements of a guest's perspective. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.